Plastics and planet Earth. Hello, everybody. I'm David Schuster, and welcome to the conversation. YouTube has this remarkable celebration underway called Dear Earth, and they've asked for a number of film projects and various things to contribute to it on YouTube. And I just watched this amazing film called Signals. Before I describe it, I'm going to show you the trailer. Here it is.
All right, am I all hooked up? Because I'm ready to go. Welcome to Signals.
Hi, everyone. Happy to be here.
An experimental program where we tune into the stories of everyday objects.
Everywhere look, it's just plastic, plastic, plastic.
Man, don't you get it? You're not getting recycled. Y'all are trash.
Girl, I'm ready for my close-up. Tune in to Signals. You don't want to miss this. Only on YouTube Originals.
All right, so as you saw, Signals is a live-action animation hybrid. It tells a bridge story of our planet's sort of interaction and relationship with plastics. The creator behind this, the co-creator, Kaz Firpo. He's an award-winning director, screenwriter, photographer. He joins us now. Kaz, thanks for being on the program. What prompted you to do this?
Thank you, Dave. It's my absolute pleasure to be on the show. Honestly, this whole journey began. We wanted to tell a story about our relationship with plastic and try to find a way to make it fun. You know, I think talking about climate change, it's scary. It's a little bit existential. It's a little bit like talking about death. And so we've made a lot of stories. We've told a lot of stories about these issues before. And with Signals, our mission was to really go out and say, how can we make this something that entertains, that educates, that informs, and most importantly, makes it something you want to share with your friends?
The key character is a Polly, a plastic bottle who I suppose at one time had sugary drinks or whatnot. And you sort of build the story around Polly and Polly's experience with realizing that he or she is trash and not something to be recycled.
Yeah, I think for us, you know, stories are one of the greatest tools for making things that are hard to understand easy to feel. And that was really what we set out to do with Signals, is take this story. You know, we see all this waste and plastic around us. We see these mountains and landfills, garbage all over the world. And we know that that's wrong. And we wanted to find a way to say, what if we could have a conversation with that waste, with that trash? What would it say about being a problem?
And what did you learn along the way as you sort of did the research and sort of immersed yourself in this issue and the environmental hazards? Was there anything that took you by surprise?
Yeah, I mean, right away, I just have to throw these statistics at you because they're so heavy duty. I mean, 91% of plastics in America will never, ever be recycled. So that means like you see those little symbols on the bottom of the jar, or, you know, you take it, you put it in the right bin. 91% of that stuff is being buried in landfills. And especially now since the pandemic, I mean, this stuff is just piling up. And what I've learned through this journey and through creating this story is that the solution isn't better recycling or more recycling centers. That's really a myth that was created by the petroleum industry and by the people who make plastics. The solution is coming up with an alternative, coming up with things like extended producer responsibility, which is a way that essentially those who make plastic should be responsible for where it ends up. Why is it my job if you're the one selling it?
Now, when you talk about 91% of plastics are not recycled, that'll strike a lot of people as, that's incredible, that's crazy. How come these makers of plastic are not required to make them recyclable? What was the answer that you found?
Well, you know, if you're familiar with American history, there's just been trillions of dollars of infrastructure and nearly a century of lobbying and legislation that's created this very powerful machine. You know, the thing that powers our cars is also the thing that makes these plastic bottles. And so these corporations, they are responsible. And if we're lucky in this generation, we'll start to pass things like EPR laws. And you're starting to see them on the ballot in California, in Oregon, and, you know, even in Washington, D.C. And what this does, it's a very simple thing. It's very common sense. It's if you make something that's damaging and toxic, like a plastic bottle that never disappears, you should be responsible for recycling it properly, for solving the plastic crisis. It's not up to the everyday person who's walking down the street and buying a Coca-Cola. It's really up to the people who are selling 1 billion bottles of that a day.
These are obviously very serious and potentially very deadly issues, and yet you're trying to you put together a project that was compelling, that was artistically engaging. Was that a difficult balance to try to strike?
It was. We spoke to a lot of experts. There's a sequence that's not shown in the trailer, but we really spoke to almost 50 plus scientific experts, scientists who are working on plastic alternatives, entrepreneurs working on plastic alternatives. What we wanted to do was get the complete picture to learn. We wanted to become more well-informed. But most importantly, we wanted to tell a story where you could sort of feel what it's like. You say, oh, there's plastics all around us. Well, what is the solution? We tried to offer a few in the show.
What's been the reaction? I mean, the YouTube Dear Earth celebration is underway. What sort of feedback have you gotten?
Well, it's been an incredible honor to be a part of that entire process. I mean, everyone from former President Barack Obama to the Pope are featured in this whole week-long event where we're having real conversations about recycling, plastic, about climate change. I mean, if you've been following the news, COP26 is happening right now. This is a conversation that needs to be had. It's not always comfortable. It's not always fun. And that's sort of where we came in. I'm a storyteller and a filmmaker. And what I said is, let's make a show that you want to share with your friends. It's for the internet. It's by the internet. And as you're learning something, you're also having a good time. And I think that's a real secret to getting young people, to getting anyone there's at any age to pay attention, to say, look, even if climate change was a hoax, what's the worst thing that could happen if we're wrong? We have better air quality. There's less garbage on the streets. Like, why is that a problem? And that's what we're slowly trying to make that conversation happen.
I'm glad you mentioned climate change, because there does seem to be something of a competition for people's attention spans and what they can focus on. And there is this argument that we have to prioritize, that perhaps climate change should take a greater priority than, say, recycling. How do you respond to that argument?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing I would say is climate change is just simply a matter of life and death for the whole planet. I look at California. I live in Los Angeles, right? And in the 70s and 80s, there was so much smog that you couldn't even see the mountains. You couldn't see the ocean. And we passed smog emission laws that, magically, lo and behold, increased the air quality for everybody. And that's really what climate change legislation is like. It's like the worst thing that could happen if we're wrong, and there really isn't global catastrophic climate change, is we make the world a little bit cleaner, a little bit greener. We plant a few trees. It's not like there's some catastrophic thing that will happen. And more than anything, I would always say, anyone who opposes this, we're creating jobs, we're creating infrastructure by introducing these new technologies. It's kind of the greatest thing that could happen to this country would be to tackle this problem head on, create millions of new jobs, and leave a better legacy for the people that come after us. I think that's the big lesson. Climate change, it may not happen to you, but it might happen to your children. And if you want to leave the world a better place, that's the base requirement of participating in society, I think.
And speaking of our children, when I was watching the clip earlier, and I saw somebody who looked very recognizable, I believe from Blue's Clues. Do I have that right? That's the same actor who was in Blue's Clues who was in your project?
It's very possible. We've had an incredible group of cast and celebrities and names and faces, and the voice of Polly is the incredible Bretton Rock, who's a fashion icon. Recently was the first cover of Playboy digitally. I mean, it's been an incredible labor of love for us to bring all these different people from all over the world, because what we've sort of discovered is climate change is not an American issue. It's not an English issue. It's a global issue. And that's sort of the joy of a show like this, was to bring creators from all over the world to work together to tell this one story. And yes, I think we had a few famous faces.
Do you see a sequel, and maybe not necessarily focused on plastics and the relationship with Earth, but it seems like this kind of storytelling, sort of using animation and sort of fast action, could be used to explain, say, campaign finance reform or all the other things that sort of plague our government and keep us from having the ability to get things done?
David, where are you? You should be one of the producers of our show. I couldn't speak more eloquently about it. That's the dream. We've been talking to YouTube about doing a whole season actually of this show. So this is the pilot of what we hope will be about 10 episodes a season. We'll do them every year. And the next episode we want to tackle, we might interview a tree, and speak about deforestation, the cost of that. We might talk to about mental health, about campaign finance reform, lobbying, all of these issues that we like to call sticky. They're a little bit sticky, and we want to make them fun, engaging, thoughtful, and something that you want to share with your friends.
And Kaz, for people who want to help you, in addition to just watching this on YouTube and catching all the projects and films, are there other ways that people can contribute or help what you're doing if they believe in this mission?
Absolutely. Thank you for asking. I mean, for one, really comment, share, talk about these stories with your friends, but most importantly, begin those conversations about extended producer responsibility laws. I think that starts at the ground level. Every state can pass these laws, and soon, if we were lucky, it can become federal legislation. I think that's really important. Laws, people make laws, laws change behavior, and they make the world a better place if you are paying attention. And that's really what the show is about. It's about paying attention, caring. I think that's the biggest challenge. And in addition to all of this, YouTube is actually running a massive campaign for Team Seas, which is an incredible nonprofit organization that's cleaning up massive amounts of oceans. Every dollar donated is, I think, 1,000 pounds of trash collected out of the ocean. So we've already raised $10 million for this organization, and we're hoping to raise another 20 by the end of the year.
And for all of these screenwriters and directors out there who are curious in terms of the simple process of putting this together, has it gotten easier to put together these sort of hybrid animation, fast action types of projects?
I think that all storytelling is a journey, it's a challenge, and it's a puzzle. So for this, we really had a singular vision. I was really lucky to work with my incredible co-creator, Max Shepard, who is based in Tokyo actually, and co-directed a number of the sequences with me. And for the two of us, we had a clear vision. We had tackled it, from Tokyo to LA. We had contributors in Switzerland and Denmark. We had people working all over the world on this. And I think the real key was it's about an issue we cared about and we knew what we wanted to say. And I think for everyone who's watching and listening and wants to create something, you don't need permission to make a difference. You can go out and you can make a film or a documentary or, a sketch comedy on Instagram that's about something important, because that's really how all this change begins.
Yeah, and the technology has made it so much easier for all of us to edit on our laptops and shoot on our iPhones, and literally you start there. The project is called Signals. It's a live action and animation hybrid, and again, it tells the relationship between planet Earth and plastics. I strongly recommend everybody see this. It is compelling, and you will learn something along the way. Kaz Firpo, one of the co-creators. Kaz, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
My pleasure, David. Thank you for having me.
You got it.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.